Happy New Year, John.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
I wasn't expecting our first conversation to be about Dave Castro being fired from CrossFit. It's only January the 5th and already 2022 is turning out to suck.
Yeah, I think my first reaction was, why create more changes now? That's what I don't necessarily understand. Why all of a sudden are we making more changes?
If you look on his Instagram account, he's reshared a couple of posts that he made recently. One of him with a pig that he killed, and the other one with Greg Glassman, who he met for a coffee or a beer a couple of weeks ago. And I think there's a lot of speculation that those two things have contributed to this.
Yes, I imagine that trying to work with Dave is probably not the easiest thing in the world. I think everyone's aware of that. And also having very controversial views, I actually did see the post regarding Glassman. And I thought to myself, well, it must be a bit of a provocative post to some people go through. And so I suppose there does come a time when, the organization needs to make a decision of which of what they kind of allowed to do and don't allow to do. And they've made from the outside a very quick and strong decision. I mean, I think the thing that everyone I think has the big question about why do it now? Why do it so abruptly? And why kind of fire him? It's like, why would they not outseed the season? Why would you? I think it would almost be a fitting time, especially if they move the games from Madison next year, to just really see out the season, the period, and all of these things. It seems very abrupt and very a strong reaction to something.
It makes me feel very unsettled. They only just announced yesterday that the open workouts were set, and now goodbye Castro. And love him or hate him, he was certainly a huge influence on the sport and also on so many people's lives. I find it bizarre that they would do it this way. They handled it very badly for a start.
Yeah, and the legacy, Castro in essence founded the games, and so to fire like that the person that founded the games is, I do think there's some ways, for as long as he wanted to be being involved in the sport, is something that should have happened in some way, like being able to find a way around that. Like you say, he's a character that isn't necessarily liked, that people question, but there is a lot of legacy and history that I feel should be honoured in some way. The games, be it that there were bad things that happened, the games did start from his ranch and, eventually turned into, this spectacle that we have a podcast doing about, that we have a business that evolves around all of this. It's like everything is kind of created from the small thing. And I'm very appreciative of that history and where it's come from. And I think that legacy is important. And so it's sad to see when it just gets like someone like that can just be like done, fired, And the one thing, I was involved in some of the phone calls when before kind of the sale to Eric Rosser. And the one thing that was promised from kind of CrossFit for keeping everyone on board was more transparency. And that was like the key promise: communication, transparency. And everyone's like, okay, as long as things are transparent, communicated well. And honestly, since that, we've had zero transparency. Like you hear it from Morning Chalk Up, or, at least the employees got an email. I suppose that's one advantage.
Dave didn't know until yesterday that he was for the push, though. It wasn't like something that he knew was coming either.
Yeah, which makes you think it's strange, no? I mean, you've got it. This is the trouble. It ends up being like a reality TV show because you don't know all of the things that are going on in the background. And so that, because there's no transparency and no communication, it leads to all of these conspiracy theories of, we start reading into, is it because he posts about hunting, or is it because he has a relationship with Glassman? And you're like, because there's no clarity, it just turns it into basically like a rumor.
Speculation, exactly.
Speculation. And maybe, I'm sure it's going to get there's going to be lots of clickbait, lots of people talking about it. But I just feel, is that what the sport needs right now? I would like the sport to move into a more professional way. And it's like, even though Castro may not have been the right person to lead it into that way, the way he's now been fired, it gives the impression that the new organization is not handling things in a professional way as well.
I thought that Dave actually had rights to the games as well. Like he began them. Does he not have any say at all?
I don't believe so. I believe that everything, I don't know what the division of ownership is now, but Glassman is actually one of the largest sole-owned companies in the US, CrossFit at the time. And when he sold it, I think they divided the company up some way. And I don't know if Castro managed to get any shares or equity in that, but in essence, no, I don't think he has any equity in the company. I mean, you've got to imagine that they probably, HQ won't want much drama, so they will probably make him sign a non-disclosure agreement for probably significant money. And so we don't know if the story will ever come out if he signs it, doesn't sign it. And this is one of the interesting timing things, is that I believe that Glassman was also forced to sign a non-disclosure for a number of years, but it wasn't that long. And I actually believe it runs out coinciding with his book coming out and coinciding with now Castro being fired. So you do, this is the trouble, the rumor mill starts, and even people like myself, you start trying to, you're trying to make sense of why this would happen. And that ends up with this, not conspiracy theories, but just really trying to find some logic in a seemingly illogical decision.
I feel pretty sorry for the guy who is going to be taking over the role. I mean, he's coming in, he's stepping into a place where he's not very welcome. Well,
this is the thing, actually. Justin has been, in essence, running the games very much alongside Dave from the beginning. So they haven't put in a new person. They've basically, Justin was involved in everything regarding the games. And he was Dave's right-hand man. They were completely together. So I don't think we'll see that big changes. And everyone who's working in the system knows Justin just as well. He was just never the face of the games. No. He was always behind the scenes running things. So they've not made a drastic change in that. The question would be if Justin stays or goes. And if Justin goes, then it's the two people who've in essence led the games have been Dave and Justin. And so if he then goes, then it's that would be very interesting to see.
How is it going to affect the athletes? What's the response this morning been from your guys?
So my guys, I think we as a group like consistency, and we're not the biggest fan of drama and these things that happen. So another change like this is, I think people just the athletes want to be able to perform at their best and have a good competition. They don't necessarily want all this uncertainty around the organization. And we've been through 2 years now, even more so because of the changes that have happened around. And so it's they changed the open time, they changed the qualifying of the games, then we had COVID, and it's there was one period for maybe 5 years where things were consistent. We had consistent ownership, consistent schedule. There was open regions games. People were starting to get on the board with that. Sponsors started to understand the process. Fans did as well. And one of the nice things in the recent changes was bringing back a structure to the season. And I think that the hope is that there's consistency in the sport, but firing the director of the games, in essence, a few weeks before the Open, doesn't feel like consistency.
It's a risky move.
Yeah, it is a big move. And, I'm sure they must have thought about it. It also coincides, with, it does seem like Eric had taken a step back because of, self-disclosed mental health issues that he was struggling with. And he's been quite public with that. And then to come back and kind of the first public move after that is to then fire the director of the sport. You know, it seems like two big extremes.
Yeah, I think just as you say, that the communication and transparency it's not where they promised it was going to be, and it's making a lot of people feel very anxious this morning. When I woke up and I saw the news that had broken overnight, I actually felt like a member of my family had died. It was really, I was grief struck. I was shook, and personally, I agree that for a lot of people, CrossFit is like their safe place. It's the place where you go, where you feel good, and it doesn't feel good to have these kind of decisions being taken. When I haven't seen, of all the chat I've seen online this morning on various posts and on Morning Chalk Up all over the place, it's very, very, very few people are happy about this decision. And even though Dave was a Marmite guy, it's a huge, I think it's a huge mistake that they've made.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing in some ways, Castro not necessarily being the face, because he was so Marmite, you know. But this being said, you know, doing it in this way seems just crazy. You know, like, okay, should Castro do the open announcements, or whatever it may be? What kind of processes should he be involved in? I think that's kind of up for discussion. But then to fire him like this is just like such an extreme move. It seems very strange.